Have you ever imagined waking up tomorrow and realizing you never have to work again? No alarm clock, no stressful commute, no boss waiting for you in a meeting you didn't even need to attend? Just freedom. Now here's the crazy part. What if I told you that you might not need millions of dollars to make that happen? What if $500,000, yes, just $500,000 could be enough to set you free for the rest of your life? Most people immediately reject that idea. They think you need $2 million, $5 million, maybe even $10 million to retire comfortably. But today, I'm going to show you why that belief might be completely wrong. And more importantly, how understanding this one financial principle could completely change the way you think about money. Let's start with a simple question. When you imagine being wealthy, what does it look like? A huge mansion, luxury cars in the driveway, first-class flights and five-star restaurants? For most people, wealth means owning expensive things. But here's the truth most people never realize. Real wealth has nothing to do with stuff. Real wealth is about freedom of choice. It's about waking up in the morning and deciding how you want to spend your day without worrying about money. It's about being able to say no to work you hate and yes to the life you actually want. And that kind of freedom doesn't require millions. It requires income that doesn't depend on your time. In other words, passive income. Here's the simple idea that changes everything. If your investments generate enough income to cover your living expenses, you never have to work again. Not because you're rich, but because your money is working for you. Let's look at the numbers. Imagine you have $500,000 invested, not in risky schemes or complicated strategies, just a diversified portfolio, things like index funds, bonds, and other stable investments. Historically, a balanced investment portfolio has returned around 8% per year on average. Now let's keep things conservative. Let's say you earn 8% annually. 8% of $500,000 equals $40,000 per year. That's over $3,300 per month in income generated without working. And here's the important part. You're not spending your $500,000. You're only using the returns. Your money stays invested and continues working for you. Think about that for a moment. Your investments are now doing the job that most people wake up every morning to do themselves. Now, you might be thinking, $40,000 a year isn't enough to live on. And for some people, that might be true. But here's the reality most people overlook. Your expenses are often far more flexible than your income. In the United States, the average household spends enormous amounts of money on things that don't actually improve their happiness. Car payments, subscriptions, impulse shopping, convenience food, lifestyle upgrades. The truth is, most people's biggest financial problem isn't that they don't earn enough, it's that their lifestyle grows faster than their income. This is called lifestyle inflation. Every time people earn more money, they upgrade their life. Bigger house, newer car, more expensive habits, and suddenly even a six-figure income doesn't feel like enough. But when you flip that mindset, everything changes. Imagine this scenario. You own your home. Your monthly expenses are around $2,500. That includes utilities, groceries, insurance, and entertainment. Your investments generate $3,300 per month. Not only are your expenses covered, you're still saving money every single month. And remember, you didn't have to go to work for that income. Your money produced it. This is the difference between working for money and having money work for you. But here's where things get even more interesting. Financial independence doesn't just change your bank account, it changes your entire life. When you don't rely on a paycheck to survive, you suddenly have options. You can start a business, travel the world, go back to school, learn new skills, volunteer for causes you care about, or simply spend more time with the people that matter most. Work becomes something you choose to do, not something you're forced to do. And that difference is life-changing. But let's address the question that's probably in your mind right now. How am I supposed to save $500,000? It sounds like an impossible number, but when you break it down, it becomes much more realistic. Let's say you invest $1,000 per month into an index fund, earning around 8% annually. In about 22 years, that investment grows to roughly $500,000. Now imagine you start in your 20s. By your 40s, you could potentially reach financial independence. And here's the important part. You don't need to start with $1,000 per month. Maybe you begin with $200 or $300. As your income grows, you increase your contributions. The key is consistency, because time, combined with compound interest, is one of the most powerful forces in finance. Let me give you an example that might surprise you. The average American spends over $3,000 per year on coffee, restaurants, and convenience food. That doesn't sound like much, but if that $3,000 were invested every year at 8%, after 30 years, it would grow to more than $350,000. That's almost enough to reach financial independence by itself. Small habits create massive long-term results, but most people never realize it because they're focused on immediate pleasure instead of long-term freedom. Here's another eye-opening reality. Over a lifetime, many people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on cars, buying new vehicles every few years, taking out loans, paying interest, paying insurance, paying maintenance. By retirement age, that total can easily exceed $600,000, more than enough to build an investment portfolio that could generate passive income for life. In other words, many people spend their financial freedom on things that lose value, without even realizing it. But financial independence isn't about reaching extreme sacrifice, it's about intentional choices. You don't have to give up everything you enjoy, you just have to understand the trade-off. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that cannot work for you tomorrow. And every dollar you invest is a small piece of freedom you're buying for your future. When you start thinking that way, your relationship with money changes. Another common concern people have is inflation. What if my expenses increase over time? That's a valid question, but remember, if your investments grow at 8% annually and you're only using about 6% or less, your portfolio can still grow over time. That growth helps offset inflation, and later in life, additional income sources like Social Security may further increase your financial security, which means your passive income could become even stronger as time goes on. Now let's talk about something that's rarely discussed: the psychological power of financial independence. When you know your basic expenses are covered by investments, fear disappears. You're no longer stuck in a job you hate. You're no longer afraid to take risks. You're no longer dependent on someone else for your financial survival. That kind of freedom changes how you make decisions. It allows you to build a life based on purpose, not pressure. And that's something money can't buy. Here's the truth most people never hear. Financial independence isn't about reaching a specific number. It's about becoming the type of person that can build wealth. Someone who understands discipline, someone who thinks long-term, someone who values freedom more than temporary status symbols. Because once you develop those habits, building wealth becomes almost inevitable. The reality is that most people will never reach this level of financial freedom, not because they can't, but because they never start. They assume it's impossible. They assume they need millions. They assume it's too late. And while they're making excuses, years pass, decades pass, opportunities disappear. But your future is still unwritten. Every dollar you save, every investment you make, every unnecessary expense you avoid, you're buying back a piece of your freedom, piece by piece, month by month, year by year, until one day you wake up and realize something incredible. Your money is now working harder than you ever did, and your time finally belongs to you. So here's a challenge for you. Imagine what your life could look like if money was no longer the thing controlling your decisions. Imagine having the freedom to choose your work, your schedule, your lifestyle, your future. It might start with just a few dollars invested today, but those small decisions can build something extraordinary over time. Because financial independence isn't reserved for the lucky,
It's built by people who choose to think differently about money. And if this video changed the way you think about wealth, do yourself a favor. Hit the like button so more people can discover this idea. Subscribe to the channel for more strategies that help you build freedom, not just income. And before you go, tell me in the comments, would you rather have $1 million in the bank or complete control over your time? Because at the end of the day, time, not money, is the real definition of wealth.